Okay, I'm gonna list a bunch of famous people, and your job is to guess what they all have in common. Here goes. Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, Frank Lloyd Wright, Richard Branson, Anna Wintour, Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Ralph Lauren, Mark Zuckerberg, Tiger Woods, Ellen DeGeneres, Henry Ford, Jack Dorsey, Steven Spielberg, Benjamin Franklin, Michael Dell, the founders of Whole Foods, WhatsApp, Dropbox, Tumblr, and eBay, as well as about 30% of the world's billionaires. Figured it out yet? Here's another clip from a VHS tape of 2005's hottest reality show.
This year, I put together very different groups. Half of you have college degrees, and half of you have only a high school diploma. But after I assembled the teams, I realized one of the groups makes more than 3 times the income that the other group makes. Shockingly, it's the high school grads. These are real killers. Does that mean practical experience is more important than academic knowledge? I'm not sure, but I am going to find out.
This is Out of Office, episode 42. And today, we're talking about the paper ceiling. You may not have heard of it, but it is so topical right now that 12 US states have changed their laws to remove degree requirements in as many months. And there was a congressional hearing about radically overhauling the entire system just a few weeks ago. I watched the entire 3-hour recording, and let's just say it wasn't quite as riveting as The Apprentice Season 3. I mean, seriously, it started with 18 minutes of this. But it did eventually get to some more juicy stuff, starting with this Foxx.
There's a growing recognition that the old ways of identifying talent are not working for today's economy. To address this issue, job creators across the country are shifting to skills-based hiring to broaden the talent pipeline and fill in-demand, good-paying jobs. It is time we reassess the definition of success in our society.
As far as this kind of committee goes, that's some pretty intense language. All the other speakers and witnesses seem to agree as well, but the system is really, really broken. But what are they so worked up about? Let's break it down. I'm sure you've heard of the glass ceiling, right? I mean, the worldwide phenomena where women get paid less and promoted less than their male colleagues, even if they're better. Well, while there's obviously still a really long way to go there, the glass ceiling pay gap has improved a fair bit in the 50 years since the term was first coined. The paper ceiling, on the other hand, is a new term for an old problem that has only gotten worse over the same time period, and that is the inequality faced by people who don't have a degree. Don't let my list of famous success stories fool you. They are the outliers, and almost all of them got there by taking the wheel and starting their own company. For regular employees without degrees in the workforce, the roadblocks are all too real, as you may well know yourself. In fact, if you assumed a certain money-motivated future president would pick street smarts over book smarts and hire one of those people that he just said makes 3 times more,
You're wrong.
no, he picked Kendra. And honestly, she is the perfect example of why the paper ceiling is so pointless. Nobody would argue the need for a degree when it comes to life or death jobs, right? Like heart surgeon or bridge architect. The problem happens when it's not life or death, but the system still values someone who learned their skills in a classroom more than someone just as good who learned the same skills some other way. Whether that's on the job, in an apprenticeship, or by completing 95% of their degree and somehow not being able to graduate. And even if you think degrees indicate a person's value, Kendra's degree is in linguistics. How exactly does that make her a better real estate broker? Is she being more qualified to teach English in Japan, which actually is something I tried to do when I was about 21 years old, but the barrier that I hit then was, you guessed it, Japan only wants people with degrees. And while that may sound reasonable, they go to great lengths to point out the degree doesn't have to have anything to do with education or English. The website literally says, any old BA will do. So we've got people with linguistics degrees running multi-million-dollar real estate brokerages, people with cooking degrees teaching English, and I bet you could name 3 friends who work in a completely different field than what they studied, right? You can't make this stuff up. I mean, honestly, for every job where a life or death situation means a specific degree is clearly essential, I can name 3 important jobs that there isn't even a degree for, like CEO, stuntman, or President of the United States. So what exactly do we think a degree proves? If you think it proves someone has the skills to do a job, well, most of the time,
You're wrong.
according to the people hiring English teachers in Japan, a degree just means this. How underwhelming is that? We've come so far that AI can produce a photo of the Mona Lisa and a Leonardo da Vinci portrait of me. But we can't dream up a better way to tell if someone is professional and reliable than whether or not they spent 4 years of their life and 100 grand studying a completely random topic? Was a dozen years of school not enough for that? What about a dozen years of school plus a dozen years in the workforce? And the importance of this issue only compounds when you consider the economic inequality that affects who can afford higher education in the first place. And that is part of the reason that the US Congressional Committee is taking it so seriously. The first witness at that hearing I mentioned before was LinkedIn's chief economist, who said the paper ceiling locks out 75% of workers from rural locations, ethnic minorities, and veterans, over 30 million of whom have all the skills to do a job that they're locked out of applying for. And she also said it can balance industries that sorely need it. For example, in the male-dominated industry of construction, when that degree barrier is lifted, 26% more hires are women. But we still need a way to validate whether someone has the skills to do a job, right? So even if degrees are a bad indicator, what next? Well, the next witness was from the Society of Human Resources, and he says the answer is skills-based testing, with 78% of companies saying it improves the quality of their hires. He also said a lot of stuff that I won't bore you with because the final speaker was way more interesting. And she represented a nonprofit social enterprise called Opportunity at Work, which made a startling discovery. While a 25-year-old recent graduate has always made more than a peer without a degree, if you track them over the next 30 years, the person without a degree not only still earns less, but if you account for inflation, they are still earning less than the 25-year-old graduate got on day one. And that inequality is new to this generation. 30 years. Think about it. I mean, I don't even know what voodoo shit they're teaching in those classrooms, but it can't be that good for 30 years of experience to still not add up to what the other guy got in 4. So if you're experiencing the paper ceiling, know that you are not alone, and there are people fighting to give you a fair opportunity. While it may take time to tear through the paper ceiling, in the meantime, if you remember one thing from watching this video, let it be this. Job application tests are your friend. They benefit you much more than they benefit the company. Well, unless you went to Harvard or something, in which case, enjoy your last few years of paper privilege while you can. I'm Andrew Allen, and the future of work is out of office.